Well, thank you everybody that's attended today and welcome. I'm going to talk through to you, through with you some of the key developments for next year. So just let somebody in. So Scarlett, if you could please do next slide for me. Okay, so today I'm going to talk you through the Extraordinary Regulatory Framework 2021-2022. This has been reintroduced this year because of the COVID restrictions that are coming into place, and to ensure that we can continue to safely deliver the diploma like last year. We're going to look at some adaptations and just talk you through what's happening with adaptations and the award by extenuation. I'm going to take you through how external moderation is going to work next year and identify some timelines for you as well. We're also going to reintroduce the CAVA provider sites, so hopefully a number of you are already engaged in using those. And we'll look at an example one for those of you that might not have yet accessed your provider sites, just so you can see how you can engage and interact with them, and also diploma quality reviews as well. Next slide when you're ready, please, Scarlett. So the Extraordinary Regulatory Framework 2021-2022 has been reintroduced from the QAA again this year. The reasons we've reintroduced it is to support access to HE diploma students during the pandemic, to make sure that they're treated in a fair, flexible and equitable way. It's also to safeguard the qualification and the arrangements for the award and assessment of the access to HE diploma. So as many of you would have heard on the news, we've gone to Plan B at the moment, which involves working from home. There could potentially be another lockdown in the new year. We don't know yet, but we're making sure that we've got plans in place so it minimises the disruption for the students and staff. It's to ensure that students who are continuing on with their studies are not unfairly advantaged or disadvantaged. It will also provide them with the skills and make them ready for transition to higher education. For higher education providers, it will ensure them that standards have been met and quality assured the diploma throughout. Assessments grades will go through the process of internal moderation, external moderation and standardisation this year as well. Thank you, Scarlett. There's several stages involved in the Extraordinary Regulatory Framework, and we'd just like to share with you now a video from the QAA that will talk you through the different stages involved in this framework.
QAA has worked closely with all stakeholders to put in place adaptations that ensure students have the opportunity to achieve their diploma. By continuing to be taught and assessed, they will be well prepared for the transition to higher education and will be able to progress with confidence. Quality assurance arrangements will ensure your students' grades are as robust as those from previous years, so that all stakeholders can have confidence in them. Let's look at the arrangements in more detail. Teach. Teaching the content of the diploma should continue to ensure every Access to HE student has the opportunity to acquire the knowledge and skills they need to progress into higher education. Assess. Assessment should continue where possible. If a student can be assessed, they should be assessed. Adapt. Assessments, delivery, for example moving from classroom teaching to online or remote teaching, and all units can be adapted where necessary and appropriate to support students to continue learning. This is an important safeguard in the arrangements for the assessment and award of the diploma this academic year. Support. Support is available to students from their course providers if they're finding it difficult to learn or be assessed this academic year. In addition, further adaptations may be available. Students have been advised to discuss their options with their course provider. Quality assure. To ensure grades are fair, equitable and robust, effective quality assurance arrangements will be applied. These can take account of adaptations to the delivery, assessment or units delivered on the diploma, and/or extenuating circumstances that may have affected a student's performance in assessment. Based on evidence presented, grades may be adjusted either upwards or downwards to ensure students are not disadvantaged or advantaged in relation to their peers. This will serve as a further safeguard for the assessment and award of the diploma this academic year. Award. If students can be assessed, they should be assessed and awarded based on planned assessments. In those exceptional cases where they cannot be assessed, a student may still be awarded units that make up the diploma through extenuation. This means if a student has not been able to complete all of their assessments because of COVID-related issues outside of their control, their tutor may work with them to see what evidence can be collected to show they have met the missing elements of the course. Providers should advise their students of the procedures should they be unable to complete an assessment. Again, this will act as a safeguard in the assessment and award of the diploma this academic year. Results. Confirmed results will be released by ABAs to course providers no later than the deadline for results to be uploaded to UCAS. Course providers should check with their AVA when confirmed results will be released to them so they can be released to students. Appeal. If students are not satisfied with their grades, they can appeal. Providers should inform their students about the arrangements for appeal. These arrangements will help to ensure equity for all access to higher education students, recognising the range of additional responsibilities access to HE students might be balancing alongside their studies. They will also help to ensure that students not only have the necessary academic qualification to progress to higher education, but that they are fully equipped for further study in a university setting. The reason we're talking about equity is because such an approach recognises the differential impact that COVID-19 may have on individual access to HE students. This approach appreciates that a uniform solution, such as a specific metric being applied, is unlikely to meet the needs of all students. Instead, by affording flexibility to providers and ABAs to put in place arrangements that fit the individual needs of the learner and the context of the provider, QAA aims to ensure that everybody has a chance to complete the assessment in a manner that fits their circumstances. This also helps to safeguard against any potential future disruption caused by the pandemic.
Thank you. Oh, Scarlett, you appear to have stopped presenting your screen. Lovely, thank you. You'll see in the video that they talked about adaptations. Adaptations will be allowed again this year, but we would just like to draw everybody's attention to the fact that adaptations from 2020 to 2021 have not automatically been rolled over. If you wish to use adaptations from last year, or if you wish to make new adaptations, we please request that you contact CAVA and fill in the appropriate documentation with a rationale as to why that adaptation needs to be in place. This will allow CAVA to ensure that adaptations are necessary and appropriate. It will make sure that they don't undermine the validity and the reliability of the qualification, and it allows us to consider and address the risks around any malpractice. So please, if you're thinking about Plan B and what contingencies you might put in place, please get in contact with CAVA. We'd be happy to discuss any adaptations with you. Thank you. Award by extenuation and alternative lines of evidence. So despite putting adaptations in place, some colleges might still need to support students further. They can do this by applying for extenuation and using alternative lines of evidence to show how they've met the learning outcomes. We recommend that these are only used in exceptional cases, and the alternative sources of evidence is discussed amongst your team and here at CAVA. Learners must have met all the learning outcomes and grade descriptors to be able to demonstrate how they've achieved that unit. Any cases of exceptional extenuating circumstances will be discussed with your external moderator, and we ask for 2 pieces of documentation to be completed. First of all, we'll look at the exceptional extenuating circumstances record. So on this form, we request you fill in the following information. So the provider name and which diploma you're applying for these circumstances for. We need details in terms of the student name and their learner number, and a rationale as to why you're applying these exceptional circumstances for this learner. It will also include details of any units which might be affected. You will need to make sure that you sign that form as the course leader. Your internal moderator signs the form, and it will be sent to the external moderator as well to ask them to confirm that there is sufficient evidence to demonstrate how they've met the learning outcomes. If we take a look at the second form now. So this is the alternate lines of evidence if you're applying for award by extenuation. So similar information as we requested in the last form. So the diploma which is affected, the student, and the units which you're applying for. And then underneath you'll be able to see that you demonstrate, and this is where you map the alternative sources of evidence to the learning outcomes. Examples of alternative sources of evidence could include professional discussions, might be witness testimonies or teacher observations, if they've participated in any chat groups or any blogs, or they've carried out any research and made notes. These are all things that could be used to help the student to achieve the unit. Thank you, Scarlett. So I think we'll take a slight pause there and ask if anybody's got any questions on the Extraordinary Regulatory Framework 2021-22. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box or raise your hand. Jonathan, would you like to ask your question, please, if you'd like to unmute yourself?
All done. So if you had an exam and a learner was unable to sit that exam in that setting, so just from the experience of level 3, if they were, say, to provide a positive PCR test and those elements, meaning they missed that unit, could you then subsequently, if you set a different exam once their period of isolation had ended, so they didn't gain any advantage over any other learners, set them an alternative exam and assess that under normal extenuating circumstances, or would you need to go through this process?
Scarlett, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you'd be able to do it under normal circumstances.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So you could just, same as if a student was ill on the day of an exam for an access exam, you could just do it on a different day, taking precautions to give them a different exam so they're not able to learn the answers off someone or whatever. But yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Anybody else got any questions just before we move on? Okay, let's look at external moderation 2021-2022. It is going to be online again. We have listened to feedback from both our providers and external moderators as well regarding the timing of external moderation. So as a result, we're going to be carrying out the first moderation visit around March next year. If you've got art and design or creative industry courses, we understand that sometimes it's easier for the external moderator to have a face-to-face visit with the college. Again, we need to make sure of what's happening in terms of COVID, but if the provider and the external moderator are both happy for a face-to-face meeting for those qualifications where it's more difficult to upload the evidence onto line, then those meetings can go ahead, but it will need to be at the agreement of both parties and make sure that risk assessments are in place. I know that's particularly useful when it comes to the second moderation and your students put on end of year shows. Scarlett, can you please move to the next slide? Thank you. So round about now, hopefully you've been contacted by your external moderators who are going to introduce themselves. Anybody that hasn't heard from their external moderator, can you please just drop us a line here at CAVA so we can try and assist with that, making that first point of contact. When they contact you, they're going to ask for a current staff team list, so anybody that's involved in the delivery of the access to HE diplomas. They'll request a list of internal moderators and also ask to see your internal moderation plan. As we've said, first moderation is taking place around March time, so they will be contacting you to discuss provisional dates. It's up to you to arrange the dates of when that moderation meeting is going to take place, but we do request that all moderation has taken place by the 31st of March, please. They'll also be talking and discussing with you the sharing of the samples. So last year, CAVA got involved in requesting the samples. This year, your moderators will be selecting their samples. So if we could ask you to make sure that the grade spreadsheet is up to date to assist them and discuss how they're going to share those samples. If they need access to your college platforms to be able to do so, please make those arrangements. If not, if you're going to send them through, I think it's Google Drive or another platform like that, please just make sure that when you send the samples that they're clearly identified. We have got some guidance on how to set up samples. If anybody needs further information, please feel free to contact CAVA and we can share that information with you. They're also going to be talking to you about student feedback. So ideally, we like the first moderation visit to involve feedback with students face-to-face. So in terms of face-to-face, we are talking an online meeting where possible with your student group or at least a student representative. We understand that this isn't always easy to do. So if students aren't able to meet through an online meeting, if you can please make sure that your external moderator has access to written feedback as a minimum, please. That could be the questionnaires that you use within college, or it could be the CAVA questionnaire that we send out as well. Thank you. Next slide, Scarlett. So in February, March time, they're going to be contacting you again just to confirm the arrangements that they made with you in December. So they'll be checking that you're still happy with the date and any practical arrangements that have been made in terms of meetings. The external moderators will request their sample with you then, and you'll agree a date with them for sending the sample. Where possible, please try and allow 2 weeks prior to the external moderation meeting, so they've got sufficient time within which to review the sample they've selected. Next slide, please. Thank you, Scarlett. So by the end of March, by the end of March, 2022, you would have had a meeting with your external moderator to discuss the findings. Again, the time of these meetings is organised between yourself and your external moderator. You'd have received a report and you'll be required to comment on the actions within 2 weeks. So following on from the visit, the external moderator will write their report and submit it to CAVA within 5 days of that final meeting. CAVA will then review the report and will send it out to yourselves as course leaders, and will also send it out to the quality contacts within your college. On your external moderation report, if you do have any actions, we do request that you comment on those actions within 2 weeks. And we ask that you go and update the course DQR for that. So you'll see on the course DQR later, we're going to look at one where you can put in your comments to the external moderator's actions. By the 15th of April, we are requesting that you've discussed dates for your second moderation meeting to take place, and you've also discussed the dates for the award board with your external moderator. June, July 2022. So again, your external moderators will be choosing the sample for the second moderation. So they'll be liaising with you to discuss that sample and receipt of that sample in terms of deadlines. Please make sure that all your grades are added to the CAVA spreadsheet prior to the awards board. And the external moderator will meet with you prior to the awards boards as well. Where possible, we advise that external moderation feedback meetings take place in a separate meeting to those from the meetings in the awards board. This allows you to have more time to chat to your external moderator on a one-on-one basis. We do request that external moderators attend your awards board as well. So we will be encouraging them to attend in person, i.e., again, it might be virtually online. But if they're unable to attend that meeting for any reason, then we will ask them to provide written feedback, which can be read on their behalf at that meeting. Once the awards boards meeting has taken place, we request that all minutes of the meeting are sent to CAVA within 2 working days, along with the external moderation reports. Same process as before. CAVA will review those external moderation reports and send them out to you at the colleges. And we ask again if there's any required actions that you make a response to those within 2 weeks. Any recommendations, you can make a response at the end of the academic year. So before we move on, are there any questions around external moderation and how it's going to take place? Helen. would you like to ask your question?
I've got a couple actually, if you can hear me okay.
Yeah.
Can you give us an idea of how big the initial sample will be, the sort of February, March sample? Is there a standard kind of approach, or is it up to the external moderators?
It will be the usual 6 students or 10%, which is about, or whichever is greater. So it will be very similar to what it was previously.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you. And we are currently still missing an external moderator for one of our pathways. So I know that absolutely is really beyond your control, but is there any guidance as to what progress CAVA's making in terms of filling in those missing gaps?
What we need to do for you is liaise with Jackie at the end of this meeting, and we can ask Jackie to have a separate call with you, if that's okay, Helen.
Oh, that's fine. I can always email her separately. That's no problem at all. Okay, thanks very much, Emma. Brilliant.
Anybody else got a question around external moderation? If you do leave the meeting today and think, oh, I forgot to ask that question, like I say, please feel free to get into contact with us. Drop us an email at the CAVA Quality Team email address, or you can email us individually, or just pick up the phone and we'll be happy to answer any questions following on from this meeting. So in order to support our providers, we've got several different sources of information that we can that we send out to you to assist you with your delivery of the diplomas. I'd first like to reintroduce you to our provider sites. So this is something that CAVA has put in place from September this year. Each provider will have their own website page where they'll be able to go and find information that relates to their course. On this website page, we put key updates and deadlines, and it's also got a direct link to the annual planner. The annual planner is really helpful in helping you to look at what administrative activities are required at different times throughout the year, and also what CAVA's responsibilities are as well. It also has your diploma quality reviews on there, so you will find within these diploma quality reviews links to lots of statistical information that will assist you with looking at the health of your course. So we include things like student outcome statistics, validation reports, your awards boards minutes will be uploaded there, and your external moderation reports will be on there as well. For each provider, we've identified the different diplomas that you are running. So if we just look at business management, for example, you can see on the drop-down tab under business management that there's rules of combination, so you know which units you are delivering. It's got a link to your diploma quality information, and then the external moderator reports. If you've gone through validation, your validation report will be there as well, and any key assessment data that you need. If we scroll further down the page, you'll have details of your external moderation team there with their contact email addresses, and you'll also we put on the name of your college representative for the CAVA Council of Members. There's two kind of sections to this website. So if we go to the top and look at CAVA support, to make it easier for you, we've got a direct link to the CAVA's member area and also to the CAVA student database. We also send out monthly newsletters. So when you get sent through the newsletter, please click on the link, because in the newsletters we'll have updates both from CAVA and the Quality Assurance QAA, and we'll also have details of any training and event sessions that we're putting up. We'll also put on there any upcoming deadlines. So if there's any requirements or a deadline that needs to be met that's in the annual planner, you'll see information on there as well, just to remind you. I'm sure you're all aware of who we all are now, but it's also got the CAVA team there as well. Should anybody new join your organisation, you can see exactly who we all are. Thank you, Scarlett. So we've also got the CAVA annual planner. So if we can click on that now. As I said, this takes the academic year and splits it into different months, and each month there's different activities that need to take place. There's activities from the CAVA team where we will send out certain information, and there's also information that we request from yourselves. So if we were just to go and look at the December, can you make that a tiny bit bigger for me, please, as well, Scarlett? It saves me squinting at the screen. Thank you. So you'll see in December, the key activities that were taking place was the CAVA conference. And thank you, everybody that joined us at the CAVA conference. I hope you'll agree that it was a very useful and informative day and very enjoyable. It shows there that on the 8th and the 9th, we're doing the provider briefings, which you're attending today. By the 15th of December, this will be the deadline for registering all students to their 60 credits on the CAVA database, or before the final application to UCAS, whichever date comes first. And you'll see you've also got a link. If anybody has any issues with the CAVA database, we've got a link to the user guide there to make it easier for you. Please make sure that before you go on Christmas break that you update your student grade spreadsheet and send this to CAVA, who can then upload the database ahead of your Christmas break. So key dates there is the 15th. Please make sure you register all students to their 60 credits. And by the 17th, please make sure that the student grade spreadsheet is up to date and sent to CAVA. Thank you, Scarlett. And then finally, we've got the DQRs. So we've got a college diploma quality review there, which shows statistics for all of the courses which the college runs. So again, this is really useful information for you to be able to compare your statistics from last year to this current year, so you can make sure that you're on target. Scarlett, can we go to the individual course diploma quality reviews, please? Thank you. Each access to HE diploma will have a individualized course diploma quality review. So on here, it's really important that you engage and interact with the diploma quality reviews, because this is where you'll find the information about your external moderation reports. So we link all the external moderation reports for you. And then if there was any required actions that have come out of those reports, we put them in the section here that you can see. And underneath that, we ask for the course leader's response. So where I said, please make sure that you respond to any required actions, this is the place that we would like to see your response, please. We also highlight on there good practice as well. So as we noticed on the external moderation reports this year, going through them, there's some really good cases of good practice, and we're starting to share those with our providers as well. So you'll see that we will put them where they can easily be identified for you. Recommendations for continuous improvement. So if your external moderator has discussed any areas where they feel that improvements could be made, or have ideas to enhance the quality of the course or potentially student experience, this is where they put the recommendations. Whilst you do not have to implement the recommendations, we do ask for a response to those at the end of the academic year, and that will be in the course leaders' comments. If you've had any referrals or any modifications to your programme as well, you'll see the section where you will send those links for you. At the end of the academic year, CAVA quality officers will look at and assess the data that we have on your courses, and we'll also put some comments in there. We can put really good things like congratulations on the success of a well-run diploma, excellent achievement. So we're highlighting those for you. And if there was any areas of concern, we would also mention these in here as well. And then we do request that you make a response to those quality officer comments when it comes to writing your course report. So for a college DQR, it's really handy to have all the information that you need in one place. So if you were ever asked questions about recruitment, retention, modifications, it's all in one place on the DQR for you to easily access and then be able to report back to. Thank you, Scarlett. So that brings us to the end of our presentation. I did mention the quality team email earlier, so you'll see there quality@cava.ac.uk. If you drop us a line, any one of the quality team will be able to pick up your email and respond to you. And if you want further clarification on any of the points we've said, please feel free to pick up the phone.